Ali Bracken, we're nearly 18 months on from the verdict where Conor McGregor lost his civil case to Nikita Hand. She claimed she was raped by the MMA fighter in a Dublin hotel back in December of 2018. A lot has happened, though, you'd have to say, in the past 18 months. Can you bring us up to speed on the developments in this story since that verdict?
Yeah, so obviously there was a Garda investigation into this allegation of rape, and that ultimately didn't lead to any criminal charges against Conor McGregor, despite a file being sent to the DPP. And then Nikita Hand opted to take a civil case against McGregor, and in November 24, a High Court jury determined that Nikita Hand had been raped by Conor McGregor, and she was awarded, I think it was close to 250 grand in damages, and McGregor was also ordered to pay her legal costs, which I think they were kind of over 1.3 million, so they were substantial.
So following on from that, then Conor McGregor he attempted to appeal this matter.
Yeah, so he has always denied the accusation, and he gave evidence denying the accusation very strongly. And then he appealed the verdict twice, actually. And he also, it had a knock-on effect on his professional life. Some of his alcohol brands were pulled from shops. So it had a reputational damage for him, I think, on some level.
Within the appeal, there was a development in that it appeared two new witnesses had come forward with evidence which they said changed the story quite substantially. What were they claiming, and who were they?
So Samantha O'Reilly and Stephen Cummins, they're from Ballyfermot, and they at one point were living opposite Nikita Hand and her then partner Stephen Redmond in Drimna. And they came forward after seeing reports on the TV about the trial, and they claimed that in December 2018, when they lived opposite Miss Hand and Stephen Redmond, that they saw her being assaulted by her then partner hours after she was allegedly raped by Conor McGregor at the Beacon in 2018. So Miss O'Reilly said she saw a heated row from a bedroom window, and that she saw Miss Hand on the ground, and she claimed that her then partner, Mr. Redmond, was moving his limbs kind of as if he could have been punching or kicking her. So this was what was alleged, and this was a statement given to Conor McGregor's, a sworn statement given to Conor McGregor's legal team that they intended to use as part of their appeal. And I suppose the implication is that potentially the injuries that she said she sustained as a consequence of being raped, as she said she was, by Conor McGregor, that it could have been inflicted by someone else.
What happened with that testimony, if we'll call it that? Where did it go? So
there was supposed to be evidence to this effect by the couple at McGregor's appeal. And in July, in the Court of Appeal, McGregor's lawyers withdrew those statements and said that evidence would no longer be put before the Court of Appeal. So that was obviously, that was quite a dramatic turn of events. And the Court of Appeal referred this to the Director of Public Prosecutions because there was a concern raised about perjury at that juncture. And I mean, this would be really unusual, Fionnán, for a court to refer something to the DPP. So the DPP kind of looked at all of this and got in touch with Garda Síochána, and they referred this to the Garda National Bureau of Criminal Investigation, which will kind of be, a specialist Garda branch for investigating serious crimes.
Yeah, so it basically was the case that the accusation was that this was a false sworn statement, that there were basic grounded inaccuracies in it, and it made its way, as you say, to a specialist unit in the Gardaí to investigate the matter. What was uncovered there?
So the guards looked at what the DPP had sent it, and after kind of an initial examination of it, they decided, there was enough here for a criminal probe. So they began to look at the statement to try and determine if criminality had occurred in the process of this statement being made. So essentially they said, we're looking at this. So how they looked at this was they went to the landlord of the house where the Ballyfermot couple lived, and they spoke to the landlord of that house, and they found out something I think that was been hugely important to the Garda probe, and that was that Miss O'Reilly and Mr. Cummins weren't living at that Drimna property at that date in December 2018 when Nikita Hand was allegedly raped by Conor McGregor and come home. So the landlord gave Gardaí a statement to that effect, stating, the exact date that they did move into the Drimna property, which was a week after Nikita Hand's interaction with Conor McGregor. So that was one kind of strand of the investigation. Another important strand was to find out where the couple were living at that time. So they managed to do that as well, and they found out they were actually living in homeless services at that point while they were awaiting to move into the Drimna home. So Gardaí also got a statement from the homeless services, I believe, stating that the couple were living, in fact, at this particular address. It was a separate address in Dublin at that time. And then the other thing, which is always kind of the last thing the Gardaí do in an investigation like this, is they go to the two people themselves. So they arrested the Ballyfermot couple in September. So that was about 6 months ago. So Gardaí would have put to them, how could you have seen this when you were not living there, when in fact you were living here? So that would have been the purpose of their questioning. From people I've spoken to, I think Miss O'Reilly certainly kind of stuck by her account that she saw what she saw. So all of this will be detailed in the Garda file. What they said during their Garda interviews will be included in the Garda file. And then the Garda file, I think, is almost complete. So it'll be sent to the DPP, and then the DPP will have a look at everything and decide whether perjury was committed.
Obviously, one of the questions that will arise would be motivation then. Is there any suggestion of any contact with anybody on the McGregor side, or anything in that regard that would suggest any link there?
No. So like as part of an investigation like this, and in this investigation specifically, the guards would have done a deep dive, I suppose, into the couple's social media accounts and also their financial records. So their bank statements, essentially. They would have looked at this couple from various different angles. And there was no identified unusual payments being logged into their accounts, and there was no evidence of any contact between them and the former UFC champion. They did figure out one thing that struck them, I think, was that Miss O'Reilly did seem to be a kind of a bit of a Conor McGregor super fan in some of her online accounts. So that was, I suppose, noted maybe by Gardaí as part of their investigation,
So perjury, rare enough that we see charges, prosecutions, cases arising from that. How serious is it? Because it is obviously quite a serious charge to be putting against somebody.
So it's an offence to make a sworn statement that is false and is known to be false. So that's, I suppose, what perjury is. I think there's a minimum penalty of €4,000 fine and 12 months in prison, and I think the maximum is 10 years and 100 grand. So I mean, it's a serious enough serious enough thing to get convicted of.
Nikita Hand, meanwhile, she's been getting on with her life after this case. Couple of developments in that regard. Very happy news that she is she's going to have a bigger family quite soon. Yeah,
I think she announced herself, I think in December, that she's expecting a child with her current partner. I think due in early summer, and she already has a daughter from an earlier relationship who's a teenager now, I think. Yeah, so her family is growing, and her partner, I think, is Gary Foy. He would have been present during her civil trial. People might recognize his image from kind of supporting her during her civil action against Conor McGregor.
She has also written a book with a ghostwriter who would be well known. What do we expect from that book?
I think she's, yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised. I was quite surprised to hear about the book. I hadn't heard it. I hadn't heard it in the pipeline, I suppose. I think it's Not the Perfect Victim, I think it's called. It'll be a full account, I presume, of her life, how, the impact of what happened to her on her life. I think there'll be huge public interest in it because there was such interest in the civil action. So I'd say it will. I'd say it'll provoke, a lot of reaction.
Yeah, and the title, Not the Perfect Victim, it suggests that there's going to be kind of a raw honesty to what she's going to have to say about what happened to her.
Yeah, I mean, she's spoken outside of court a couple of times.
I want to show Freya and every other girl and boy that you can stand up for yourself if something happens to you, no matter who the person is, and justice will be served. To all the victims of sexual assault, I hope my story is a reminder that no matter how afraid you might be, speak up, you have a voice, and keep on fighting for justice.
We haven't really heard her full story, I suppose, of before, during and after that case, the impact it had on her. So there will be a substantial amount of interest both in the book, and I suppose when an author comes out with a book, there's an associated tour where they do interviews and publicity around it. So this will be a big deal when this book comes out in the autumn.
I think it will be, yeah. And I mean, it'll obviously be closely looked at by Conor McGregor's legal team and his camp, I suppose. He has said things, and other people linked to him have said things where they have, firmly denied accusations. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any public kind of statements from that. It'll be interesting to see the level of publicity. I think there'll be huge publicity generated around it.
Yeah, we'll wait and see that, and obviously further developments then in terms of the Samantha O'Reilly and Stephen Cummins case as well. Ali Bracken, thanks very much for those updates.
Great, thank you.